So this presentation is Happy and Healthy Teens. This presentation is in English. Tomorrow I will do the exact same presentation in Spanish. So if that is more comfortable for you, please let us know. But we will go ahead and get started. Okay. So what we are going to go over today, we are going to talk a little bit about the teenage brain. You know, it's important to know what is happening in here so you can help them figure out what to do in life, whether that's in stress management or behavior or emotions. You need to know what's going on in your head so you can figure out what to do. Next, we'll talk a little bit about what is the role of a parent when, what do you do? What do you do when you have a teenager? What if this is your first teenager? To be able to give you guys some strategies and some perspective. The next thing we'll talk about is establishing healthy relationships, meaning healthy boundaries with your children, with your teenagers, and showing them what that looks like. Then we'll talk a little bit about keeping them strong, keeping them motivated. And last but not least, we will talk about preparing them for adulthood. You leave your house.
Who wants you to be the captain?
So what is a teen? So let me get a chance to make sure that everyone's muted real quick.
Families, if you can please mute your device. If you can please mute your device, we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Much. Yeah, that way everyone can hear. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, so what is an adolescent? What is a teen? How do I know that I'm talking to one? Right, it's usually a period when they start puberty, and then it ends when they become mature. That's kind of a little bit of a gray area, so we'll talk a little bit about what that means, right? So let me talk a little bit to you guys about your kids' brains. You know, in order to understand them, you have to know what they're thinking. A lot of the times when we have teenagers, we have no idea what they're thinking, right? We always ask, like, what were you thinking when you did that? Why would you do that? You weren't thinking, right? So I want you guys to know a little bit about their brains. So during the time when your kids are growing up, we could mute those mics real quick, please. Thank you so much. Okay, so whenever your kids are growing up, you know, their brains are growing at an incredible speed, especially between the ages of 11 and 15. You know, their brain keeps growing, you know, at the age of about 14 or so, their brain stops growing in size, right? But that doesn't mean that they stop learning, that they stop growing in maturity, right? We all know that. So a lot is happening in their brain. You know, a lot of new connections are being made. They're learning a lot. They're starting to understand their social environments, making friends, things like peer pressure, things like stress, things like acceptance, what all that means, right? So brain research shows that teenagers take more risks, right? They make mistakes, right? And because I was once a teenager, I know that that is 100% true. Right. And I want you guys to know that environment, where your teens are, where they live, how their rooms are, how their houses are, all of that environment can and does influence how their brain develops. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a picture here. Don't get scared. I know this looks like a lot, but I'll explain everything, okay? So the part of your kid's brain that is growing the most is this red part, so your forehead, right? This is the part that takes the longest time to develop. This is the part of the brain that helps you make good decisions. It helps you think before you act. It helps you look at your emotions. look at your thoughts and make sense of them, and also how to problem solve, right? It is no wonder that teenagers are not very good at this, and that is okay. They're not supposed to be just yet, right? So the next thing that is important to learn about is what's called the amygdala, which is that blue part. It's like right by your ears, goes down right here. And that's important because it's responsible for survival, but it also makes us very impulsive. So when we're trying to survive, we're not thinking about consequences. We're not thinking about anything except we just want to get there and we just want to go and get it done, right? So this is the part that is usually more active during the teenage phase. So we're working with a little bit of a challenge here because their brains are very, very emotional. They're very impulsive, but they're not just developed yet to be able to stop, think, and say, and then go, right? We're struggling with that in this little phase in life. And that's okay, we can deal. We just have to figure out how to deal. You know, science says that teenagers stress out more than adults. They say that teenagers deal with a lot more stress than adults deal with sometimes, and that could be, you know, because they don't have the ability to figure out that they're stressed and figure out what to do when they're stressed. So this year in particular, at least for me, I don't know about you guys can do a thumbs up or a clap if this year has been not only stressful for you, but stressful for your teenagers, stressful for your children. I know that I've gone through a lot of different moments in my life this year when I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So your teens definitely feel it also. So I want you guys to know what are some signs that your teen is just really stressed, maybe burnt out, maybe overwhelmed. And these are really good signs to be able to have conversations, to be able to get to know them a little bit better. They're changing and the world is changing around them. So it's good to know what they think. So these are some examples of stress. I call them stress responses, what I can see when I talk to students, when I talk to teenagers that are just not doing too hot, really overwhelmed. So a lot of them get headaches, stomach aches, you see those physical symptoms, lots of sleep issues, so they're not sleeping well. You know, teenagers need roughly between 9 and 10 hours of sleep a day to let that brain rest and to let it kind of heal from the day. You know, melatonin, the stuff that makes us sleepy, starts later in the day or later at night, I should say, for teenagers. So it's no wonder teenagers like to stay up late and wake up late. Their cycles are shifted a little bit. So that can lead to things like educational problems. They can be moody, they can have attitudes, they can change socially. They can think that you're the coolest parent one day and then the next day you're doing the same thing, and that's the thing that embarrasses them the most, right? So there's a lot of change going on, right? We can sometimes see that they're really hard on themselves, like, oh, this is too hard, I'll never get there. Negative self-talk, right? And possible just general worry about the world, worry about themselves, worry about their friends, their families, things like that. Right? And like I mentioned, this part of the brain is really, really active. So we want to make sure that we understand that they're supposed to be emotional. They're emotional creatures. Right. So what can we do to help them? What can we do to let them know that, you know, it's okay and that you can de-stress sometimes? Some of my favorite ways to help students and adolescents kind of figure out that it's okay to slow down. It's okay to take a breath. It's okay to not be okay sometimes, right? Sometimes I ask them to write, spend some time in nature, go for a walk, look at the sun for a minute, right? I like to say schedule some fun time, right? Schedule some time to do something that you truly enjoy, whether that is with your family, with your friends, by yourself, even better, right? With your siblings, with your pets. Schedule some time to have some fun, right? Another huge thing is physical activity. Lately, because of quarantine and this year, we have been stuck inside a lot. So some ways to manage stress is to just move your body somehow, whether that's dancing, whether that's walking, whether that's just wiggling around, however it is that you want to move your body, move your body. It helps, I promise. I made a challenge with some students this year that's saying, you know, anytime you guys are feeling down, just start dancing. You won't believe how many dance parties were in that classroom that year. It was the best way to kind of release that stress, but in a good way, right? Practicing things like mindfulness, you know, learning how to breathe, learning how to notice what's around you, learning how to be present in the moment, that can sometimes help with stress. My favorite one is talking. Talk it out. Talk it out, talk it out, talk it out. Because if it's in here, it's kind of like a hamster on a wheel. If you talk it out, it's out somewhere. It doesn't have to be in your head anymore. These are some strategies that I use for myself when I get stressed. Definitely some strategies that I recommend for teens and really anybody that's feeling stressed, right? I want parents and caregivers and teachers, really anybody, to remember that for really anybody, but especially teens, if they feel like they are strong and capable, and if they know that if they fall, they can get back up, and if they have positive relationships like all of you guys here clearly care for your kiddos, then you're going to have happy and healthy teens. Okay, so some of my cute little favorite ideas, if you guys need a way to nurture yourself, help yourself with stress, you know, take a minute to look at some of these, right? You know, some will work today, some will work tomorrow. So having a few ideas in your back pocket for your teen is not a bad idea. My favorite one is the sloth one. I'm just out of order. I'm not here today. All right, we'll keep going. So now that you have teens, they're not kids anymore, right? They always say, don't treat me like a kid. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm grown up now. I don't have to be told what to do, right? So unfortunately, that's a little true. When they're kids, we are in teaching mode, right? We are in teaching mode, what to do, what not to do, how to do it, to be careful, directions. They are learning a lot from us, right? We are their teachers. We do things for them. We teach them how to tie their shoes, how to ride a bike, how to go to school, how to get dressed, all of these things, right? Once they get to their teenage years, you stop becoming the primary decision maker and you move sort of into this coach role, support role, right? They don't want you to tell them what to wear anymore or how to act anymore. You know, they want to make their own decisions. They do. Right. So now it's like, okay, well, what do? I don't know how to approach things anymore, because normally I just tell them what to do and they just do it, right? They rely on me for guidance. So now, yes, they will rely on you, but for guidance in a different way. Now you're going to be a role model. You're going to be support model, right? You're going to be an example of how they should manage life, right? So I love this quote that says, kids are never really good at listening to what adults say, but they never fail to imitate them, right? So in this phase of life, they're watching how you deal with life, right? Because they're starting to deal with life on their own, right? What I like to use when I talk to teens and to help them feel motivated and inspired by life, I like to use, we call it motivational interviewing in psychology, but it's really just being empathetic, putting yourself in their shoes, asking open-ended questions. This is my favorite because they can never say a yes or no or a fine. Those are never answers in my book. They have to tell me something, right? So if I ever ask an open-ended question, it gives them the opportunity to think a little bit and to come up with an answer, right? So if they look like they come home and they're a little bit moody, so instead of saying like, hey, did you have a good day? So they can say, yeah, no, yeah, sure, it's fine. I ask them, well, what happened today that was good? I just start off with that one. You know, it gives them a little bit of time to think about their day, and it gives them a chance to communicate their emotions, communicate their thoughts, communicate their feelings, which is something that teenagers don't like to do. You know, they love to go into their room and just maybe get on their video games or on their phone or just be by themselves. You know, by asking open-ended question, you open up this door to good communication skills. And you want your kids to have good communication skills. You know, whenever they do talk, being able to reflect back on what they say is important, right? So being able to say like, oh, okay, well, I hear that you had a really tough day, or it sounds like, you know, today was really, really, really good, or that you struggled, but then you persevered. You know, being able to reflect back what they say is huge because that means that they know that you're listening. You know, kids want so many things, and I have it right here on the right hand side, but the biggest one obviously I put in big capital letters. So what do teens want? They want acceptance, they want belonging, they want to be admired, they want to be valued and respected, and they want high social status. They want to know that they're important, right? They want to know that they're important, yes, from their families, but also from their social circles, right? From the world that they are in, right? So being able to know that that's what they're interested in, that's what they're only interested in is how they're viewed, is what people think of them, then that gives us as caregivers, as parents, as teachers, kind of a little bit of an idea of like, okay, well, I have to make sure that I practice that support and practice giving them that feeling of being valued, that they're important because they are, right? And I have this little picture of a mom on a scaffolding thing, because as parents, when kids are little, we try and build foundations for them. We're building stuff with them. Once they're teenagers, they get to kind of do it on their own, and you just kind of get to hand them little tools, right? So there's a little bit more responsibility, but that's a good thing. So how do you have good relationships with your teens? You know, this is an interesting one because sometimes we argue with our teens, we have those power struggles, we have the attitude, we have, you know, the slamming of the doors, or then refusal to do tasks or behaviors or breaking rules, etc. So how do we have good relationships with our kids, and how do we establish good boundaries? So I love this quote. It says, walls keep everybody out. Boundaries teach people where the door is, right? So walls, I'm not a huge fan of walls because that just means that we're all just closed off and nobody gets anywhere. But if we know how to set boundaries, we teach people how to treat us and how we value human interaction, right? So with parents, with caregivers, it's better whenever you're talking to your kids to listen, right? To listen first rather than instruct first, right? Listen first and then talk about it later, right? Knowing that your kids will mess up. They will mess up bad. They will make mistakes. Oof, it'll be bad sometimes, right? So having these hard conversations, you know, can be really, really tough because as parents, we're just so worried. We want them to do well. We want them to be safe. We want them to succeed. We want them to love themselves and love their families and be good people, right? So having these tough conversations can be challenging and nerve-wracking, but it's all possible, right? It's possible if you show them respect, if you stay calm, which is hard to do sometimes, but stay calm, right? Discussing consequences, natural consequences, but most importantly, helping them feel safe to come to you with any problem, right? I would much rather my teenager come to me with a problem than be way too scared to come to me and mess up even more and even more and even more, right? I would much rather know what's going on so we can problem solve together, right? So the big important part is how to set healthy boundaries. I like these as like my golden 10 commandments, rules to how to have a good relationship with a teenager, any teenager, right? The first one is empathy, right? Be empathetic, understand that they're going through a tough time with hormones and changes and social status. It's a tough time for teens. You can pay me to be a teenager right now. Natural consequences. Natural consequences are, that's what they are. They're natural consequences. So for example, right, your teen gets an offender bender. And now they have to deal with, okay, well, what happens after a fender bender, right? There's the insurance, it might go up, cost of repairs. What do you do for a ride in the meantime, right? You have to problem solve these things. I'm not saying that you're going to bail them out, but tell them, okay, well, this is what you have to do to figure out this problem, right? This is what we as adults have to do on a daily basis. So being able to prepare them for that shows not only support, but it teaches them a lot. It teaches them a lot of independence. A huge thing that I want parents and caregivers to know is that your teens may say that they don't like rules and they don't like that you are on them for certain things, but trust me, it saves lives and it's incredibly important. So being firm and being consistent with whatever house rules you have, right? So if you say yes one day and no another day, that's wishy-washy. Your kids will know that they can push you over. If you are firm and consistent with whatever house rules you have, then your kids will respect you for that. They will know that you mean what you say and you say what you mean, right? I like this one, end game. Whenever we have these like silly fights, I like to tell kids and teenagers, okay, well, think about end game, right? How big is this moment in the grand scheme of things? In the grand scheme of your life, of your picture of the world, right? Is this thing gonna derail everything? And if not, then I want you to focus on that end game, right? For parents, it is so, so, so important to have your own life, to have your own things that make you happy, to have your own goals, your own, things that you want to do, your own motivations, your own thoughts. Sometimes we're so worried about taking care of everybody and taking care of all our kids that we forget that we have our lives too, right? Being able to make sure that you're okay. Your kids will need that. Kids need parents and caregivers that are healthy. So by making sure that you're healthy, that you're taken care of, then they'll be okay, right? Remember your role. They're growing up, but they still need you, right? My favorite thing is, looking at privileges, looking at, extras, have them work for it. Anything extra that I want, I have to work for real hard. So anything extra for them, whether that be technology, taking the car out for a spin, joining another sports league, going out with friends, like these are all things that we can work for, right? So it's like, okay, well, you have to keep up your end of the bargain to be able to get all of these amazing privileges, right? That's how life works. It's great to be able to teach them that early on. My favorite thing, and this one's a hard one, is, oh man, don't take what your kids say personally. Do not take what your kids say personally. Being able to manage emotions and manage what they say is not their strong suit. So being able to remember that you are a good parent, that you are doing well, and that you're doing the right thing, that's important. Don't take things personally. And last but not least is privacy. Whenever your kids talk to you, try and maintain that privacy, right? Try and maintain that bond that you guys have. They'll come to you more, right? Next, we're fostering a growth mindset, meaning that we're trying to get kids to learn that they can always be better. They can always learn, they can always improve. You're not just stuck where you are, right? Have us some cute little ideas on what to say to each one. This is what your kids can say to themselves, right? So instead of saying like, I'm not good at this, ask, what am I missing here? Or if this is too hard, instead say, oh, this may take some time and effort. What you say to yourself really, really, really matters, right? Moving on, last but not least, some things that I think are important to learn to teach your kids to prepare for leaving your house for adulthood. Things that I wish I learned in high school. I didn't, but I'm still learning, managing my time well, establish priorities and manage distractions, right? It's like I have almost a few minutes left, so I have to manage my time well. A big thing is getting your kids to love learning, not necessarily learning math or English or science or whatever, but just learning. Because your kids are going to be learning for the rest of their lives, learning how to drive, learning new recipes, probably learning a language, right? Learning how to travel, learning how to have relationships, learning a new business, learning how to apply for jobs, gardening, art, whatever. You're always learning. So if you can help your kid love that art of finding new things and loving that art of learning, then your kid will be so motivated and really, really well off later in life. Okay. Learning how to budget, important skill. Nutrition, it's super important to know to stay healthy, and to what you're putting in your body helps, helps keep you strong, keep you healthy, keep your immune system up. It also helps your mental health, right? We want mentally healthy young adults to be able to handle whatever life brings at them, right? Learning them to keep a clean house, like doing chores, taking care of their things, right? Because we work hard for our things, so take care of them, right? And last but not least, learning how to stay safe, right? Whether that be online, if your kids are on their cell phones and having apps, or offline, what to do when they need help, who to call, natural disaster emergencies. We just had one here in Texas. It's like, what do you do? So being able to have these conversations with your children is incredibly important. And it will create a bond and relationship that is incredibly strong. Alrighty. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. Let me see if I have any questions. I know that we are almost out of time here. Let's see, how can I get my teen to enjoy family time without it feeling like a consequence from screen time? That's a good one. Being able to do something with family time that they find exciting. So what I like to do is have a family meeting and have everyone pick something, right? Kind of like a draw of a hat, or I like to do one day per week and have each family member pick something fun that they like to do for that week. And we're not all gonna say like, yes, for sure, let's play Monopoly. But if everyone has a chance to speak and put their hat in the ring, and it be kind of like a democracy, it's more likely that they'll show up if they know that everybody else is getting a chance to do what they like to.
Well, I would like to give a big thanks to Ms. Guzman for this amazing presentation.